Disclaimer: this story explores mature emotional themes intended for an adult audience. It does not contain explicit material. Viewer discretion is advised. You think you know the people you share a roof with until one night shatters that belief. It was a little past midnight when I heard the door creak open downstairs. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then came the soft thud of shoes carelessly kicked off, a backpack dropped without a thought. I glanced at the clock, 12:17 a.m. My heart pinched with a familiar mix of worry and frustration. Nathan, my stepson, was 23, technically an adult, but adulthood doesn't automatically erase the fears of someone who's been through enough loss to know better. I sat there, lights off, listening. Part of me wanted to charge down the stairs and give him a piece of my mind. Another part, the bigger part, wanted to understand what was going on with him lately. Nathan wasn't a reckless kid. He wasn't the type to stay out all night without checking in. That's what made the last few weeks so unsettling. The late nights, the vague answers, the way he kept avoiding eye contact, like he was carrying something too heavy for him to hold, but too dangerous to share. My husband, Derek, had gone on a work trip earlier that day. It was just me and Nathan in the house tonight. And maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it was time someone asked the hard questions. I padded downstairs quietly. Nathan was slouched on the living room couch, head in his hands, still wearing the same dark hoodie he left in. He didn't hear me approach. Or maybe he did and just didn't care. "You're late," I said, keeping my voice even. He didn't move at first. Then he looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw it, pure, raw fear in his eyes. Not the kind of fear you have when you're caught doing something wrong. The kind you have when you don't know how to fix what's broken inside you. "I know," he said, voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." There was a long, heavy silence. I sat down across from him, noticing how tired he looked. Like he hadn't slept in days. Like the weight of the world was pressing into his shoulders, and he was too proud, or too scared, to ask for help. "Nathan," I said gently, "what's going on with you?" He stared at the floor for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, without looking up, he said something that punched the air out of the room. Something I can never forget. Something that changed everything I thought I knew about him, about us. He whispered it so quietly I almost missed it, but once the words landed, there was no unhearing them. And as he said it, I realized this night wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. For a long moment, all I could do was stare at Nathan. His words, hollow, broken, rattled around in my mind, looking for a place to settle. But they wouldn't. They couldn't. This wasn't something you could tuck away neatly. Nathan had always been the quiet one, even before Derek and I married. He was 20 years old back then, still carrying the scars of his mother's passing in ways words couldn't touch. I never tried to replace her, God knows no one could, but I had promised myself I'd be someone he could count on if he ever needed. Even if he never asked. Tonight, he was asking. Without the right words, without the right look, but asking just the same. I shifted on the couch, trying to steady my voice. "Nathan, you can tell me anything. You know that, right?" He finally met my eyes, and for the first time in months, he looked like the boy I first met, guarded, but desperate for someone to see the truth without judgment. "I didn't know where else to go," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't think you'd believe me." The house felt too small for all the fear floating between us. A floorboard upstairs creaked with the night's cold. Outside, a car passed by, headlights briefly cutting across the windows. Life was moving on. But here, in this living room, time was standing still. I thought about Derek, how he always brushed off Nathan's silence as just being a guy. How he thought giving Nathan space was the answer, that pushing too hard would only drive him further away. Maybe he wasn't wrong, but maybe he was missing the bigger picture. "Try me," I said simply. Nathan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tight his knuckles were white. "You ever feel like there's something wrong with you, but you don't know why? Like something's been following you your whole life, waiting for you to mess up?" A chill prickled down my spine. He wasn't just talking about guilt or teenage rebellion. This was something deeper, darker. "I don't know what's happening to me," he said, voice trembling. "And I'm scared." The vulnerability in his voice hit me harder than any confession could. Whatever he was dealing with wasn't just a bad decision or a string of bad luck. It was eating at him from the inside. I wanted to fix it, to protect him. But first, I needed to understand what I was protecting him from. "Nathan," I said, choosing my words carefully, "are you in danger?" He hesitated, a hesitation that screamed louder than any answer. "Not exactly," he said slowly. "Not the way you think." Before I could press him further, he stood up and paced the room, running a hand through his hair. He stopped by the window, staring out into the night like he half expected something or someone to be standing there. "It's not just tonight," he said, his back still to me. "It's been happening for a while. Strange things. Things I can't explain. And now," he turned to face me, the raw fear back in his eyes. "Now I'm not sure if it's real, or if I'm losing my mind." My heart squeezed. I wanted to tell him he was safe here, that whatever he was facing, we would figure it out together. But deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be that simple. Because sometimes the scariest battles aren't fought against something outside. Sometimes the real monsters live inside us, and they don't play by any rules. I stood up, feeling the weight of Nathan's words settle into my chest like a stone. Losing his mind? Seeing things? My instincts screamed to comfort him, to tell him it was all going to be okay, but what if it wasn't? Before I could say anything, he moved away from the window, eyes darting toward the front door like he expected it to burst open any second. His anxiety was contagious, curling into the corners of the room, choking the air between us. "Nathan," I said carefully, "tell me what you've been seeing." He hesitated again, chewing the inside of his cheek, a habit he picked up as a kid when he was scared. At first, it was little things. Shadows that moved when they shouldn't. Whispers in empty rooms. Then it got worse. Last week, I woke up and the walls, his voice broke off. He shook his head, refusing to finish the sentence. I stepped closer, lowering my voice like we were conspiring against the night itself. "You're not crazy. You're not alone. But you have to trust me if we're going to figure this out." He nodded, but the fear didn't leave his face. As the tension twisted tighter around us, another thought gnawed at the back of my mind. What if it wasn't just him? I had brushed off the strange cold spots in the house, the soft knocking sounds when no one was there. I told myself it was the old plumbing or the creaks of a settling home. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe Nathan wasn't the only one being followed. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, cutting through the thick silence. I glanced down an unknown number. No message, just the missed call. I silenced it, but the unease stayed. Nathan caught my reaction. "It's them," he whispered. My mouth went dry. "Who's them?" He just shook his head again, eyes glassy. "I don't know. But they don't want me talking to you. They don't want me telling anyone." Before I could press him, there was a sharp knock at the door. Both of us froze. It was 12:41 a.m. No one knocks at that hour unless they mean trouble. Nathan's face drained of color. He grabbed my arm, whispering fiercely, "Don't answer it. Please. Don't." Another knock, louder this time. More urgent. The rational part of me screamed to call the police, to at least check who was out there. But looking at Nathan, something told me that normal rules didn't apply tonight. Whoever or whatever was outside wasn't here for a neighborly chat. Suddenly, Nathan's phone buzzed from his pocket. He pulled it out and went pale at the screen. "No caller ID," he muttered. The knocking stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. We both stood there, breath held, waiting for something, anything. But the house stayed still. Too still. Slowly, Nathan turned his phone toward me. A message had come through. "We see you." That was all it said. 3 words that gutted whatever sense of safety I had left. I looked at Nathan, and for the first time tonight, I saw it, the truth behind all the fear, the late nights, the avoidance. He wasn't just scared for himself. He was scared for me too. And somehow, without even realizing it, I had become part of whatever nightmare he was trapped in. I didn't know who I was more afraid for, Nathan or myself. The message still glared from his phone screen, burning into my mind. "We see you." Nathan backed away from the door like it might explode inward at any second. His hands were shaking, and when he spoke, his voice barely held together. "They know I told you," he said. "We have to go. Now." "Go where?" I asked, heart hammering against my ribs. "Nathan, if this is someone playing games, it's not a game," he snapped, sharper than I'd ever heard him. Then, softer, almost pleading, "Please. We can't stay here." Another knock. Softer this time, almost playful. We both jumped. Nathan grabbed my keys from the counter, but I hesitated, glancing back at the door. Logic tried to anchor me, telling me to call the police, to get help, to stay inside where it was safe. But nothing about tonight followed the rules of logic. And Nathan's fear was too real, too raw to ignore. He yanked the door to the garage open, motioning frantically. "Come on." I followed him, adrenaline pushing me forward. We climbed into my car, my fingers fumbling the ignition. As the engine roared to life, I caught a glimpse of the front door in the rearview mirror. It was wide open. I know I locked it. I know it was shut. A cold wave of terror washed over me. Nathan slammed his door shut just as I hit reverse, tires squealing as we backed out into the street. We drove. Fast. Silent. I didn't even know where I was heading. I just knew I needed to put as much distance between us and that house as possible. Nathan kept looking over his shoulder, flinching at every passing car, every shadow. Finally, breathless, I dared to ask, "Nathan, you need to tell me everything. Right now." He looked at me, torn between desperation and fear. "I wasn't supposed to survive," he said. "Not when I was a kid. After my mom, there were things I saw. Things I tried to tell people about. They didn't believe me. They called it trauma. Hallucinations." I tightened my grip on the wheel, trying to stay calm for both our sakes. "But it wasn't in my head," he continued. "It was real. It is real. They've been watching ever since. Waiting for me to slip. To open the door a little too wide. To trust the wrong person." I turned onto the highway, headlights blurring past. "What do they want from you?" Nathan stared out the window, voice low. "To finish what they started." A lump rose in my throat. We sped down the dark road, the world around us a blur of black and yellow lights. Then headlights in the rearview mirror. Getting closer. Nathan stiffened. "It's them." I pressed harder on the gas. The car behind us matched every move, keeping perfect pace. "They won't stop," Nathan whispered. The reality of it hit me like a punch. This wasn't just about Nathan anymore. Whoever or whatever was after him had decided I was part of it now. My phone buzzed on the seat between us. I glanced down. Another message. No caller ID. You can't run. A shiver ran down my spine. Ahead, an exit loomed, an empty off-ramp leading into darkness. I didn't know where it went. I didn't know if it was safer. But staying on the highway felt like painting a target on our backs. We have to lose them, Nathan said urgently. Without thinking, I yanked the wheel, tires screeching as we veered off the main road, plunging into the dark unknown. Behind us, the headlights followed. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this night wasn't about escaping. It was about surviving. The road twisted into a long stretch of woods, darkness swallowing the car whole. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, as the vehicle behind us faded for a moment, then reappeared in the distance, relentless. Nathan sat stiffly in the passenger seat, breathing hard. I could feel the questions building between us, but neither of us spoke. Not yet. Then, just when I thought we had a chance, something else happened. Nathan's phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't a message. It was a call. Unknown number. He stared at the screen, then, against every instinct screaming at me to stop him, he answered. He put it on speaker. At first, there was only static. Then a voice, low and familiar enough to make my stomach drop. Nathan, it's time. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a monster. It was Derek, my husband. The realization slammed into me so hard, I almost missed the sharp curve ahead. I wrenched the wheel to stay on the road, heart in my throat. Nathan's face twisted with betrayal, pain flashing across his features. Why are you doing this? He said into the phone, voice cracking. You were never supposed to tell her, Derek said calmly, coldly. You promised. Promised. My mind reeled. What promise? What secrets? You don't understand. Derek's voice continued, almost gentle. You're sick, Nathan. You've been sick for years. We tried to protect you. But now you're putting everyone at risk. Nathan shook his head violently. You're lying. You lied to me about everything. The car behind us sped up, headlights glaring through the mirrors. They're not coming for you, Nathan, Derek said. They're coming for her. Because you made her part of this. And now she's a liability. My blood went cold. I wasn't the innocent bystander anymore. I was the target. The call cut out. We drove in stunned silence for a moment, the tension suffocating. Nathan turned to me, his voice a raw whisper. He made a deal. A long time ago. After my mom died. I wasn't supposed to survive. But he offered them something. Someone else. I swallowed hard, the sickening truth unraveling faster than I could keep up. Derek didn't marry me because he loved me. He married me because I was expendable. I was never meant to survive this night either. Ahead, a break in the trees revealed an old gas station, flickering lights, abandoned pumps. I slammed the brakes, tires screeching as I swerved into the lot. The car chasing us barreled past on the highway, missing us by seconds. We sat there, breathing hard, headlights off, hidden in the shadows. But the damage was done. Nathan wasn't just running from faceless strangers. He was running from the man who raised him. The man who was supposed to protect him. And now he was trying to protect me too. I turned to him, my voice shaking but firm. We need a new plan. He nodded, eyes burning with determination. We end this. Tonight. The stakes weren't survival anymore. They were revenge. And for the first time, I realized maybe we weren't just being hunted. Maybe it was time we became the hunters. The gas station lights flickered above us like dying stars. Nathan and I sat in the darkness, a fragile plan forming between us, half instinct, half desperation. We couldn't outrun this. We couldn't hide. Not anymore. We had to face it. I checked my phone. No service. Of course. Nathan glanced at me, his jaw tight. If we go back, if we face them, you have to promise me something. Anything, I said, meaning it. If it comes down to it, he said, voice rough, you save yourself. I shook my head. We'd do this together. Nathan didn't argue. Maybe he knew there was no point. Maybe he just needed to hear me say it. We pulled back onto the road, this time driving toward the nightmare instead of away from it. The house loomed ahead minutes later, windows dark, doors still ajar like a gaping mouth waiting to swallow us whole. Nathan reached under the seat, pulling out a flashlight he must have stashed earlier. A weak weapon, but it made us feel less helpless. We moved quietly, sticking to the shadows. Every step toward the house felt heavier than the last. Inside, the air was thick. Wrong. The silence was alive, humming against my skin. Then we heard it, footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate. Nathan squeezed my hand, and without a word, we started up the stairs. Halfway up, the floorboard creaked under Nathan's foot. The footsteps above stopped. A voice floated down, calm and chilling. You should have stayed gone, Nathan. Derek. Nathan's body went rigid, but he didn't back down. He kept climbing. I followed, heart pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. We reached the landing. In the hallway, illuminated by the thin light of Nathan's flashlight, stood Derek, unarmed, relaxed, like he was waiting for us. You don't have to be afraid anymore, he said, almost kindly. Come with me. Let's end this the right way. Nathan stepped forward. I grabbed his arm, but he gently shook me off. You ended it a long time ago, Nathan said, voice steady. When you sold us out. Derek's smile faltered. You don't understand the things I've done to keep you safe. To keep her safe. Safe. Nathan spat. You lied to us. You used her. Derek's eyes flicked to me, colder than before. Collateral damage, he said softly. Nothing personal. That was it. The dam inside me broke. Before Derek could react, I grabbed the heavy flashlight from Nathan's hand and hurled it. It struck Derek square in the forehead with a sickening crack. He staggered, crashing against the wall, dazed but not out. Nathan lunged, pinning him down with the kind of strength fear grants in impossible moments. I scrambled for Derek's phone, lying on the ground, and found the last text he sent, the address, the call. The plan to hand us over. Proof. Nathan looked down at Derek, breathing hard. For a second, I thought he might finish it. End it the way betrayal like this begged for. But he didn't. He stood up, walked away, and left Derek lying there, beaten not by violence, but by the one thing he could never control, Nathan's choice to live free. We stumbled out of the house together, blinking into the growing dawn. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors must have heard the commotion. Nathan turned to me, tears streaming silently down his face. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. I shook my head and pulled him into a hug so tight neither of us could breathe. You have nothing to be sorry for, I whispered. You're home now. That's what matters. The first rays of sun broke over the trees, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I dared to believe we might actually be safe. At least for now. Because some ghosts never really leave. And some promises, no matter how buried, always find their way back. We sat in the car long after the sirens faded and the officers left, the early morning light washing over us like a clean slate we barely knew what to do with. Nathan stared out the windshield, silent, as the weight of everything finally started to lift. Derek was gone. Arrested. charged with conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, and a stack of other things that would keep him far away from us for a very long time. And for once, there were no more secrets left between us. Nathan turned to me, his voice low but steady. I never thought I'd make it out of that house alive. I didn't think I deserved to. Hearing him say that broke something inside me. You do, I said, reaching over and squeezing his hand. You always did. We didn't need to talk about the scars Derek left behind, emotional or otherwise. They were there. We both felt them. But scars don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived. Nathan moved in with me permanently after that night. Not because he had nowhere else to go, but because he chose to stay. Because for the first time in a long time, he knew he was wanted. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because he was family. Healing wasn't easy. Some nights Nathan woke up sweating, convinced someone was watching. Some days, I caught myself double-checking the locks, checking my phone every time it buzzed. But we took it one day at a time. We went to therapy. We really talked about his mom, about the fear that ruled him for so long, about the lies we lived under without even realizing it. We built new memories. Safe ones. Ones where laughter didn't feel foreign or forced. The house started to feel like home again. A real home. And as the months passed, Nathan found his footing. He went back to school. Started working part-time at a local community center, helping kids who felt invisible. Who needed someone to remind them that surviving doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger than most people ever realize. As for me, I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I realized that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way through. It might not be easy. It might not be pretty. But it's there. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you even when it would be easier to walk away. Nathan chose me, and I chose him. If you take anything away from this emotional story, I hope it's this. Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expect. And sometimes the greatest battles we fight aren't against monsters outside, but the doubts and fears we carry inside. But healing is possible. Trust is possible. Love is possible. You just have to believe you deserve it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of thrilling stories, family secrets, or emotional journeys would you like to hear next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this emotional, suspenseful story about family and survival, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Storytime episode.